Live, I think.
I think so.
Okay, cool.
Show about 10 seconds in.
Yeah, no, and every single time on mine, there's it feels like there's a little bit of a delay. Like the countdown is on time, but then there's a little red dot on the software that just kind of just like beeps at 0, and I'm like,
oh yeah, that's why 0 to 99, 0 to 99.
Yeah. And then so that's why like every single one of these episodes I record, it's like, are we live? That's not trying to be like a signature. It's just I have no idea. Anyways, so what's going on, guys? Alan K with ShiftEQ, and I'm joined with Chris, Mr. Science and Gains. How are you doing today, Chris?
Hey, like I said earlier, as long as the Aggies are winning, I'm in a good mood. If they lose, I'm gonna be pissed off the rest of the weekend.
Oh man, so it's gonna be interesting to watch because when this episode comes out, we're gonna figure out how the rest of the mood is gonna go for you.
Yeah, exactly.
But real quick, big picture wise, I wanted to bring Chris on because Chris is the coach that I've decided to work with for my next prep, and from now until the beginning of June, which is the Florida Pro that I'm going to be training for, the first of every single month. We're going to be doing, what's the word I'm looking for? A catching up or a big overlook on preparation for the show. The goal of this is to definitely show that if you have a curiosity of getting to the stage, if you have ever had a curiosity of what it's like to be in prep, is to bring a picture to what that really is like. Because in my honest opinion, it's not too far off from what people are normally doing. Chris, anything that I'm saying so far, like anything you want to add to that?
No, man, you're doing good. I mean, we kind of talked for a little while. We had a couple of chats, and I remember our first time we spoke. You were like, "Man, I like it," and you're like, "I got 2 more people to talk to." So I was like, "Damn, I wonder who he's talking to." And of course, I coach Mike, a good friend of yours as well, and I think it's gonna be really cool, to kind of build this team of people who are already friends. You know what I mean? Like it's all just a community. It really is a community. I mean, you're all the way in California. I'm in Texas. I've had Mike do shows in Florida, which you're gonna go to. That y'all hung out over there. So yeah, I think it's really cool, man. And then I do think this is kind of unique and like an update and it's like an update and a forecast. Like what have we done this month? What do we want to do next month? What do we want to achieve? If we don't achieve that, what are we going to do? If we overshoot, what do we do? It's kind of cool to kind of have my thoughts on it, how you're feeling on it as well, and to be completely honest and open, with anyone thinking about doing a prep. Because like you said, it doesn't really go off too far from what people normally do. But, for those that have been thinking about doing it, it's just more extreme. There's more dedication. That's really all it really is.
Right. I mean, if you look at anybody who's considered to be a gym head or someone who already is savvy with the gym, it's that they already have a routine. They already have a couple of set of habits and consistent habits and consistent behaviors. And in my experience, now this is my 4th time doing it. And it's just readjusting those behaviors and habits, because it's to go from someone who hasn't ever been on prep to completely translating over to doing the 4th time on prep. It's not going to happen. If you're going to create the better habits, you just start doing cascading. You're doing a little bit at a time, until they become your normal behaviors. And, but before I get into too much of that, I definitely, the first part of, this, before we start getting into your background, Chris, and because you mentioned Michael was a good friend, the first thing I would ever recommend anyone to do is to pick the right coach, pick the right person that you get along with. Right now, in a day of social media, that there's a lot of results that can be fudged. There's definitely a lot of ways that AI can write a post and make it look like it's this coach's results. But like Chris had mentioned earlier, one of my really good friends, Michael Jadozzi, he has these extreme results, and he's someone who has a lot of integrity, who also has a lot of the same morals, characters, and values that I do. And so therefore he recommended Chris. I talked to Chris a few times. Chris has also helped me before I even decided to start working with him. And so
Yeah.
it's, for me, I realized that, hey, this is also who I wanted to work with. Chris, how about that? Like for you, are a lot of the clients you work with, are they usually referrals, or are they usually anything like
Yeah.
that? Like, can you go into that?
A lot more referrals. So I just got a new one a couple of weeks ago. She came in, a client of mine, Sharon. She's always, she loves to tell people what she's doing. And, I talked to her. She hopped on, really good fit. But, a lot of more referrals. But for first time coaches out there, you don't have any referrals. All you have is results. And if you have both, it's even better. So, I think the average personal trainer right now lasts maybe a year, year and a half. I've been doing it for 8 years. Actually, yeah, 8.5 years. I've been coaching for about 7.5 to 8 years, and just sticking with it and making sure that you actually take pride in what you do, because these people, they're paying you money, and Lord knows right now everything's expensive. Like it's $10, $12 a pound for ground beef. It costs about, on average, maybe $40 or $50 a day to feed my family. So if someone's giving you money for coaching, take that into consideration, that they're investing in themselves, they're investing in you, and just kind of treat everybody like they're your only client. You can't go wrong with that. And a lot of them are referrals, and what I like about the referrals coming in is they're like you, the people of similar value who have experience. So if someone comes to me, they've never worked out before, they've never tracked a macro, nothing, I'm not the best coach for them. That's not what I do. Um, I have a couple of coaches under me that I can definitely recommend them to. I own a gym here in College Station, Texas. I have trainers that I can give them to, but I work best with someone who's ready to go, has the experience. They've done, it could be their first prep, but they have experience eating right. They have experience training. They've built those habits and that foundation. And those are the people I work really well with strong foundations, because when it comes time to push and mentally just run through it, if you've never done it before, it's hard to imagine what it's going to be like. You have to be used to that dark place. You got to be able to embrace it. And, some people really love that. I have one guy out of California too. He's in San Diego, and I told him, hey man, it's time for the hoodie down. We're going to work, hoodie up, head down. We're going to work. It's time to go to that dark place. He's like, bet. Like he embraces it. And those are the best ones, man. But, everyone's different. And I really enjoy the process of meeting everybody and getting to know them. I tell them, look, we're gonna have a personal relationship. I have one. She just left her fiance. She's moving back with her parents. That's a rough time for her. Those are things I have to know. I'm not gonna push her to do more cardio, to diet harder. Like, no, you know what? We're gonna take a couple of weeks break. I want you to relax. I still want her to train, but there's some leeway there. So I like to get to know everyone individually, and I let them know, hey, it's gonna be a close relationship. Women, if you're on your period, I gotta know. Those are things that sound like, oh, they kind of shy about it. No, like I need to know that. If you haven't taken a dump in 4 or 5 days, I need to know this. So
Yeah.
we get intimate and personal.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, and that's, I think you're just exactly why you need to be cognizant of what coach you're deciding to work with,
Yeah,
what personalities and traits, because like you just said, it's not just about the macros. It's not just about go out and work out and go work out on this. Like that's fucking easy as hell. It's
yeah,
the developing the rapport with the client, with the person, beyond them being a client, and understanding
yeah,
that real life things are happening. And just like you said, like if someone's mom just died, they don't want to go do cardio, with an incline of 8 and doing hit cardio. Like that ain't happening.
yeah.
I mean, look at, some people do,
Some
but I
people
would,
will.
but some people don't want a coach to be told, to be telling them to go do hit cardio to get over your
Yeah,
mom, right?
exactly.
Man, I just went to that dark place we spoke of. Anyways, the,
Yeah,
and that's another thing too, is if some of you guys that followed my previous journey, I spoke a little bit about that dark place, because another thing that a lot of people don't account for, especially in these preps for these competitions, is how do you respond to normal life stress when your hormones are just so out of whack and just put to the grind. And another thing that I wanted to work with Chris on is Chris is no, I don't want to say what's the word I'm looking for. he definitely knows about hormones and how they play into your body, from both, sides, from the dark side, as they say it, and from the natural side. And I wanted to work with Chris, especially to figure out what that was like, and the things that he definitely promotes with athletes to provide them the results naturally as well. Oh, Chris, did you lose a light right there?
Oh, there we go.
There we are. Damn.
Yeah.
I guess that's you going to the dark side right there, man. Just real quickly.
For a little bit, I became a Sith Lord, and then now I'm back to Jedi, I guess.
The Jedi. I'm working with Anakin Skywalker, guys. That's exactly what I just happened. So yeah, Chris, can you I guess when I'm talking about that, the balance between like hormones and not hormones, I guess what comes to mind for you when it comes to working with clients and helping them to manage those levels for themselves?
Yeah, so a lot of it's going to be just like stress management, man. And, as we diet and the leaner we get, these hormones are just going to start tanking naturally anyways for the natural competitor. Naturally testosterone is going to lower. Your thyroid output is probably going to lower because you have lower carbohydrate. Estrogen levels may rise in males. Progesterone is going to lower a lot in women just because of the stress that it causes the body. Because we have our everyday stressors, right? Whether it's relationship stress, financial stress, you just broke your pinky or whatever. All those, the body perceives the same. Now, when we add cardio, that's a stressor on the body. When we work out, that's a natural stressor on the body. When we diet, that's a stressor on the body. So it's really just, playing like a teeter-totter with some of these things that we can control, like diet, like training. So, for example, when people get closer to show, I kind of give them a diet break or a training break. I say, hey, this week we're going to eat more food. We're going to cut the cardio in half. We're going to train 2 or 3 days this week. Next thing you know, next week, boom, they're down 2 or 3 pounds. So it's playing with stress. That's going to be the biggest thing. And then, of course, supplements. I mean, supplements can definitely help. Of course, the word supplement, it is a supplement. Some of your things should come from food to help with certain hormones. So if I notice, testosterone's lower, budget isn't really there for like a testosterone booster that's, legal for naturals or whatever, there's certain foods that I can give and recommend that can definitely help with the production of that. I can give sleep protocols to make sure that we're recovering, testosterone will increase. And one weird thing that I look at with competitors is I'm asking, like, how's your libido, right? And that tells me. So for males, I'm like, hey, if you're waking up in the morning, you got a teepee, we're good to go. Testosterone's high, right? For women, like, how's your libido? Is there vaginal dryness? Are you not in the mood? Some of those things I have to know so I can kind of go back and say, okay, this is what we need to do. Because if I can make sure that their personal life is taken care of, and sex is huge. I mean, sex is huge in anything, in marriage, relationship, whatever it is. If that is an issue, things just shit rolls downhill. So that's one thing why I ask, how's your libido this week? Oh, I'm good. Okay. No questions. It's bad. Okay. If it's bad, I need to go into more detail. Guys, you're not keeping it up while you're making love to your significant other. I have to know these things. So that's kind of how like hormones play out. That's how I kind of get what's called biofeedback every week from clients to kind of see how I want to go the next week and attack that week.
Nice. And what's great about this is I didn't know that was going to be part of the curricula. So now I get to talk about on future episodes about if I'm getting natural boners or not. So the world gets to figure out if I'm having a natural boner or not. Great. This is
Are you waking up with a boner or not?
Am I waking up with? That's a good question. You know what I mean? I don't. I think by my mid-30s, I think it's like I'm used to this. Like, all right, cool. Like it's gonna be harder to take a piss right now, but okay. Like it is what it is.
Yeah.
But now I guess I got to pay attention. I guess I get to pay attention if I have morning boners again. Great.
Yeah. Say, hey, Alan. So how's your wiener been this week?
Oh, how's my wiener?
Right. Yeah.
I just want to make sure it's like I'm not driving around my family. So, like the Apple CarPlay just plays the text messages.
Yeah.
Like I got to mute your text specifically on the car
Yeah.
rides. Hey, message from coach. Hey, Alan, how's your wiener been this week? Oh, that's my coach. I promise. No,
I promise it's nothing like that.
I promise it's bodybuilding. It's part of my body and I'm building it.
Yeah.
Anyways, I guess we kind of went off into a little tangent, but I mean, look at, see again,
Hey, it's
this is
expected,
something, it is, but this is why I'm excited. I just learned, here we go, about certain things that we'll be getting into and what you pay attention to already different than the other coaches that I worked with. And real quickly too, that's another thing before we start, we are going to get into the background because I do want to get to know about you, on this, because you said 8 years. That's interesting. But I have worked with other coaches. Me working with Chris doesn't mean that the other two coaches didn't work. I just have a natural curiosity of how the different coaches work and the things that they like to highlight, because it gives me an well-rounded view of how success can be written for other people. That being said, again, I do want to take this time to thank my two previous coaches, which is David Nonstop Milligan, and then Mariana Blue Ox Fitness Guilty. I keep on butchering her name. I don't whatever. For where they got me as a client to where I'm at now, is I can't thank them enough. Working with Chris, I know it's going to be a lot of grinding, a lot of hard work, but if I were to be honest with you, I don't think I would have been able to work with you had I just got into the sport.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. And that's another thing I definitely wanted to highlight, while it's on my mind, honestly, is the coaches, we're depending on where you're at in your journey, the kind of coach that you hire definitely matters, because again, we're at the point where I am training to win. I'm training to get my pro card, training for these absolute results. That's where I'm at with my journey. For some people, it's a bigger journey just to even get up on stage and building those habits. And just to emphasize, everybody is on their own path. And what a win and what a pro card means to me might be just getting to the stage or getting to the habits for you. So please, don't make it one where you have to get this coach. The other coach is like, no, it's just where you're at with their journey. Different people respond to different things. So Chris, anything you want to add to that? I definitely want to always give you the option to
I definitely resonate with that because I have one client. She's 3 weeks out. Her name is Sharon. She came to me because she's over 50 and she's having some blood work issues, and she loves her coach. Her coach, Team Armor here in Texas with Lalo. He's a great coach. He has a ton of great competitors, but I'm more versed in the hormonal aspect. So she still goes to work out with her team. She still has him for training, but she came to me for prep and diet because I specialize in the hormonal aspect of things. And we've really, really helped her. And I created her diet based off of what I saw on her blood work and where she needs to go. So, there's nothing wrong with that, and she wouldn't have needed someone with my expertise 5-10 years ago. And she's able to be in a great position to work with me because she had great coaches beforehand. So there's nothing wrong with changing coaches. Just let your coach know, like, hey, if you're going to go somewhere else, just say, just be honest. I have other people who go elsewhere. I'm just interested in learning to see how they do things. I get it, because no one coach is the exact same.
Right. I just, it's funny. So I wonder if you see a coach, like let's say you're a coach, right? And you see one of your clients working with another coach. I wonder if that feeling is a lot like, let's say you go to a barbershop, you get cut by one barber, then the one day he's gone, you get cut up by one of the backup barbers who does your hair better, and then you go to him from the rest. Is that kind of a feel if you see one of your clients working with another coach that
It depends on how the relationship ended, because some of them they're like, they didn't get the results they wanted. And, sometimes it is a call that I made. Sometimes it's something they weren't doing, but it depends on how it left. I have a cousin who's been cutting my hair for like 8 years. And every once in a while, business wise, or if I didn't have the money, I'd have to go to somebody else. And, I still go to him now, but he was hurt. And he told me, he's like, man, that hurt my, like, and the worst part is I used to work with him 4 days a week, side by side, like, right here. Yeah, like in the same office. So they'd be like, dang, cuz, like, you did me like that. I'd be like, look, bro, I can't afford you right now because, times
Yeah.
were hard then. So it definitely can be like that,
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's get into this real quick. Not real quick because we've been talking, but so you have been training as a coach for 8 years.
Yeah.
And let's just what got you into bodybuilding and like how has it evolved into you coaching now?
Man, so I've always been an athlete my whole life. I mean, even at 3 years old, typical Mexican, my parents had me playing soccer. Um, and it was I'm a gifted athlete. Like I'm quick. I have good footwork and stuff like that. But I never really wanted to do soccer because I was like I said, just Mexicans play soccer. So I did that for a couple of years, and then I went and played football. I excelled in that. I moved to a smaller private school. My mom says she saw me going down the wrong path, so she put me to private school, and I excelled there too. I was all state, and that's where I met my wife. So let's see. Typical guy. Had my child, my first kid, a little earlier than we expected.
Mm-hmm.
I was 21 when I had him. Got fat, and I looked at a picture of myself one day. I'm like, man, I'm a fat piece of shit. Like, how did I let myself go?
Mm-hmm.
And I just got into working out again. And I used to live about 500 feet from a local gym. So I started to go work out there, lost weight really quick. But that's back when Instagram first started, man. Like, 8, 9, 10 years ago. It was just pictures. And I forget what the guy's name. I used to follow him, and he would always brag about, zero carbohydrate. And I'm like, this looks good. So I just did zero carb. I would eat like just chicken and ground beef and chicken, ground beef, and like green beans and broccoli all day. And I got pretty shredded because it's the first time I actually had a diet in my life. And from there, a cousin of mine was like, man, you should compete, like you're getting lean, stuff like that. And I'm like, man, nah, I don't really want to do that. But he got that idea in my mind. So I did it. I enjoyed it. And around that time, I started personal training for a local gym here. And it was just side money. That's all it was, just a side gig. Because again, I was 24 then. Um, I was working for at minimum wage at a battery warehouse. I needed side income. So I started personal training. And around that same time, a friend of ours opened up a small studio. And it was just like a dance studio. They just had fitness classes and stuff like that. Well, she had opened it up, had a grand opening. My wife came home from it one day and was like, hey, I signed you up to teach insanity. And naturally, I'm an introvert. I'm like, hell no. Like, what the fuck? I was pissed. And, I was like, you know what? Whatever. It's cool. I'll just do it. So she paid for my certification. I got into the group fitness area. I learned how to talk to people, kind of see how they respond. I learned a lot of emotional intelligence around training there. Because you can tell a lot about people who are there. They're overweight. They want to work out, but they can't really do it yet. They can't keep up that intensity. So I learned a lot of emotional intelligence there. So I finished my first show after that. I really enjoyed it, but I did the whole, like, again, just chicken, rice, broccoli. So my second coach, Brandon Arnold, he's here in Houston, actually. And I can't thank him enough because then I couldn't afford bodybuilding either. I could afford the food, and he was actually hosting a show in Houston. That was my second show. I think it was 2014, 2016, 2015, something like that. Maybe 2017. And he was like, look, man, I'm going to coach you. Just the last 4 weeks, just send me a payment of what you can. And that meant a lot to me. So, I competed. I got third. I think I should have got second. But, it is what it is. That's politics, right?
That's a different one.
Yeah, that's kind of the name of the game. But ever since then, it kind of had a lasting impact on me. So I like to give back to the bodybuilding community. So if someone like asks me questions or just wants my perspective or anything, I'm always an open book because if he did that for me, and he had a wife then, he had a kid, he had his own small gym, he needed to make money also, but he did that for me. And that's got a lasting impact on me for the rest of my life. So I try to give back as much as I can. So after that, a couple of years later, I tried to diet again and I couldn't. I did the exact same thing, same cardio, same macros, and I couldn't diet. I wasn't losing body fat the same way. And I always wondered why. So I kind of just said, fuck it, I guess I'm not going to. train anymore for bodybuilding. And around that time, around my second show, I had a couple of people, asking me, "Hey, do you think you could coach me? I seen you do a couple of shows." And I didn't want to be that guy that just did a show or two and started coaching. Like I asked my coach at the time, Brandon, if he thought I was ready. And he goes, "No, I think you are." Like I'm someone who needed a lot of validation then. So after he was like, "Hey, I give you my blessing. Not that you need it, but you're ready to go." And from there, it kind of started. I took everything that I had been learning from him, my CPT course, a year or so of coaching people, and kind of put it all together. Started doing macros then. That's back when like IIFAM was the whole thing. And people were just going to town on Pop-Tarts and shit, like Pop-Tarts
the
and
IFMM. Is that what you said?
IIFYM.
What is that? If it
You
fits
don't know
in your
what that
mouth,
is?
if
Yeah,
it fits your mouth.
That's a whole other
wait. What is
we
it?
got to do.
What if it fits in your mouth? It's something.
If it fits your macros is what it is.
If it fits your macros, right? Pause. Wow.
Yeah.
Pause. By the way, pause. Pause. Hardcore on that one. Wow. Anyways,
but yeah. So back then, that was huge. It was pretty much just hitting macros. People were just like protein shakes and Pop-Tarts all day, getting shredded, bragging about it. And that's what I was about then, because that was the hot thing. That was something that I could put on Instagram to get people in. Like, hey, you can eat cake and get shredded, So fast forward a couple of years, like I said, I couldn't lose weight anymore. And I kind of I kept training people and kept having pretty good results with training people online and bodybuilding. But I still couldn't figure out why I couldn't drop body fat. So go forward to 2020. Of course, the world shut down. My wife had anxiety, and that's something I never had seen in my life. I had never seen someone mentally break down and like be so frightened of something and couldn't move, and that was new territory to me. So around that time, I found a podcast at the time, Elite Physique University with John Gorman and Jason Theobald, and they started talking about testosterone and hormones, and I'm like, I wonder if this is the missing piece, to what I don't understand yet. So from there, it was just a whirlwind of spending a lot of money, going to different seminars, online courses, things like that, putting it into application and seeing a lot of really good results with it. And then here we are today, September 23rd,
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, that's kind of my story in 8 minutes, I guess.
Yeah, that was a lot. So you started at 21 is kind of when you hit your low, when you had your first kid. And then you said there's like you had this moment where you're like, wow, I'm a fat piece of shit. I'm fat this, I'm fat that. I always find it funny where I feel like a lot of men, when they turn it around, it comes in that moment. Like it's a lot of self shit talking. Like, wow, Alan, you're a bitch. Like, wow, stop being this. It's always spoken like that.
And I still do it. Like I'll be training. I'll be like, man, come on, bitch. I go call myself a bitch. And I finish a hard set,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's just driven into us to attack vulnerabilities. If it's like, if I'm like telling myself, oh, you can push yourself a little harder, you big unicorn, like, all right, that's, that doesn't hold the same thing. But if I'm like, hey, Alan, you're a little bitch if you don't get this up, like, oh, I'm not a bitch, and then I try to lift something. But I feel like that's most men. So then 24, you said you kind of did your first one where you started teaching insanity and learning EQ, and then somewhere I didn't get a timeline where you said your second show was about 2017, if I gathered that correctly.
Second show, let's see. So second show was right before my daughter was born. The first show was before my daughter was born.
Okay.
And that's something crazy too. Like I competed 3 days before she was born, so my wife was having all the cravings in the world. And here I am having all the cravings in the world. She gets to eat what she wants, just not me. So Mia just turned 10. So about 9. Yeah, about 9 for the second show. So it's 2013. Yeah, I guess about 2014.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. That seems like a pretty big gap, right? In between the shows that you did that. And then,
it was back to back years. And after that I couldn't. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Oh, because of the hormones and everything. And then recently it started. So, but you've been training this entire time. And I feel like probably then you as a trainer has probably evolved over that time as well.
Oh, definitely.
Right. Well, what are some of like, I guess for anybody, I guess is listening to this that potentially wants to be a trainer as well. What are some things that you've had to change about yourself? Like what do you find? What are some effective ways that you have found to teach people the right principles to get ahead?
Man, you got to make sure that what you're learning is actually true. You know,
Mm.
like I said, when I first started working out again, I was following a guy that was all about zero carbohydrate. Now I know that's probably the worst thing you can do for yourself, especially
Mm-hmm.
if you want to tank, testosterone, if you want to tank your thyroid, and be able to do this for longevity. Because everyone's done keto, but no one's actually stuck with it over their diet, and then they're done and they're back eating carbohydrates again. But making sure that what you're learning is actually what's tried and true over time. So I used to be all about this thing came out, German volume training. It was like 10 by 10 on everything. And I
Oh
used to do
yeah,
that
yeah.
shit. Yeah. And good God, I was so, I mean, come on, 100 reps of squats. Um, and then training every set to failure. We're not supposed to do every set to failure. Most of us can't recover from it. So having one set to failure, maybe the last set, sure. But true mechanical failure, not just throwing it up and using a lot of momentum. The way you train, and even learning from other trainers as well. Like networking is huge right now in the community, and learning from someone who is better than you, who's been doing it longer. And I had a good relationship with my coach after that for a long time, because he had been personal training and still does it full time for probably 6-7 years before I even started. So he had experience and knowledge that I didn't. And then over the past even 3 years, 2 years, I've gotten so much better at programming, because my business partner, whom I own a gym with, he specializes in training and how each muscle works differently, injury prevention, things like that. And I really specialized in just nutrition and hormones. And of course, I could program, but not at the depth I can now. So um, all last year, when I started coaching full time, I left my job of 8 years at the state. I need something to do on Thursday. So we hung out for an hour and a half, 2 hours, kind of learned from each other, troubleshooted each other's clients. And I used to coach him, actually. So, like I said, networking is huge, because I used to coach him. He coaches full time. I coach full time in the same town. Most people would see that as competition, but we collab on a lot of things. We just got our clients better results by working with each other. And then this year, there was an opportunity to open up a gym, and here we are. So,
That's awesome.
like I said, making sure that what you're learning is great, a great foundation. Collaborating and just learning from people who have been doing it a lot longer and have those results that you want to have. It's going to be huge for any trainer, because, like I said, most of them don't last maybe over a year, year and a half, maybe 2 years. They just get into the industry. So if you can make it past those two, and again, like, treat people how they should be treated, you can't go wrong.
Yeah, yeah. And it sounds definitely, you can hear the evolution that you've learned about things. Like you learned about the exercises, you learned about the macros. Then in time you learn, like you just said, there's something else that can be different. Then you learned about the
Yeah.
hormones. Then you also learned with working with other coaches. And you're
Mm-hmm.
right. It seems like, you just keep reinvesting into yourself,
Yeah.
keep on reinvesting into who you are as a coach. And now here you are 8 years in, right, doing it. So I definitely wanted to definitely highlight that, because I feel like a lot of people go into something fearing that they don't have all the answers from the get-go, and
Mm-hmm.
it's okay. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't have the answers from the get-go. But if you keep on reemphasizing, make it about the pure intention, right? And what yours
Mm-hmm.
is about the client, about the results of the clients getting, about how they feel about those results. Man, your
Yeah.
dark side keeps coming back. Um, as long as you make it about that, the everything else will fall into place as it should be, and it shall. And
Yeah.
there's definitely a lot to be gained into that. So I want to definitely get into now prep. Again, I think right now there we'll talk a little bit about specifics, but I definitely wanted to give an overview on prep for a lot of people. For me, I would describe prep, yes, it's to get up on stage and look your absolute best. But if I were to just put it into action, I would just say it's about prioritizing specific habits and behaviors within your schedule and doing it congruently over a subset period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know that sounds really bland, but in all reality, it's true with regards to eating, working
Yeah.
out, and a lot of other things. I guess in your words, big picture wise, what is prep for you as a coach and maybe as an athlete as well?
Yeah. Prep for me again is just, can you get it done or not? There comes to a point where no matter how important sleep is, you got to get up and get the cardio done. You got to get up and make sure you prep your meals. So a lot of it is just, like I said, big dedication and repetition over time. Because when someone starts working out, I don't work with many of them, but I tell them each repetition is practice for the
Mm.
actual for the set. So the more reps you do, the better you're going to get. So, if someone's just working out, you won't have them max out, right? You give them sets of maybe 10, 15, 20 to kind of learn the movements. It's those same movements, same patterns, like you said, over and over again for a desired result. Now, you may need to veer off of that schedule for a little bit. And, so one reason I'd like to do 16 to 20 week preps for most people is I allow for life to happen. God forbid someone pass away in your family, you got to travel. God forbid you get in a wreck and like you got a whole damn days of food gone, and now you can't get to the gym for a couple of days. Like, I allow life to happen. So again, it's doing those repetitions for a desired result, but allow life to happen as well.
Yeah. Yeah. There's I think there's also a lot to be said with prep where I feel like a lot of the reasons why there's so many people that are obese, so many people that are so lost when it comes to gym or diet or what to eat, what not to eat, regularity, is because there isn't a guideline, like a
Yeah.
specific guideline. This is what you should be doing at this interval at that time. One of the main reasons why I always recommend prep for anyone, regardless of where they're at in their fitness journey, is because once you experience prep, like you get a very clear guideline of what it's like to eat properly, to work out properly, to sleep on a schedule, as
Yeah.
well as prioritize a lot of things that if you were to just plug into the mainstream media with food or any of these other things that propagate just bullshit and processed crap, if you were to lean onto that, you wouldn't understand how to actually do the most optimal approach. Now,
Yeah.
if it and it's funny for me now that this is my fourth time doing it, now that this is um, me being able to podcast about the certain things, because just as much as we're going to talk about from your perspective the things that you're going to guide me to do, I'm definitely going to talk about even the basic things, like how do I meal prep, how do I make it into a regular
Hmm.
habit, how do I order things in certain restaurants based off of circumstance, right?
Yeah.
Another thing is the very first month, so we're starting in October. In the middle of it, I have a work trip to the Bahamas. Shameless plug right there, shameless brag, I'm not gonna lie. But it's wild. Like, how am I going to do things like life circumstances? Hey, we might not be able to follow the plan exactly as per se, because
Hmm.
I'm on an island, literally. But
Yeah. A
the
beautiful island
a
with great
beautiful
food.
island. Yeah. No, it's a tough life. But but it's like, how do I still maintain as parallel and as close to it as possible,
Hmm.
so that I'm still within a range, right? Um, and this is important, in my honest opinion, because it definitely shows, like, sorry, to go back from that tangent, it has shown me literally how my body will respond if I do things at the 100% most
Yeah.
stringent approach as possible. And I think by having that guideline and seeing what that is, I now look at the regular world and see how regular people are eating and see the problems
Yeah.
and see why people fail in their diets and the results. Half of all Americans have weight loss or some kind of gaining a fitness regime as a goal every
Hmm.
single year, and 95% fail every single year. I honestly
Yep.
believe if they were shown exactly these are the things you got to do in order for you to get to this optimal result, it's a
Hmm.
lot easier to follow. And that's why I would recommend prep. Yeah, it
That's
seemed
also
like,
why I like.
go ahead.
Yeah, that's also why I love 75 hard. Like, it's you have to bust ass. You have to commit. You have to, 2 workouts a day. You have to follow a diet. No alcohol. A gallon of water. 10 pages a day. So not only are you dedicating yourself and making yourself better and learning discipline, but you're doing the things you don't want to do. Like no one wants to do a fucking outside workout. It's here in Texas. It's 110 degrees. My wife was doing it. I didn't want to go for a walk when it was 110 and humid as shit, but we did it. You know, it makes you mentally tough and shows you exactly what you have to do. So kind of like you said, you know, if there was a plan, it's not exactly a plan for everybody, but for those that complete it, their mindsets changed, their bodies
Yes.
changed, the way they perceive, you know, discipline has changed. Some people hate it, some people love it. Actually, I'm a big fan of it. You know, if
Yeah.
someone's like, hey, you know, like, is there a plan that I can just do for free? 75 hard, see you in 75 days, you know?
Yeah.
So then they have experience dieting. They have experience saying no to things. They have experience training. If they're brand new, 75 hard, come to me, boom, let's get to work, you know? So
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah, it's interesting on I love that you mentioned that because 75 hard is exactly what you just said. It's a zero sum game. You either get it done or you don't. And that's
Yep.
exactly what prep is. That's exactly what people need to realize is what's causing them from actually achieving the goals that they want is like they don't have that absolute we're gonna get this done. Like how many times you
Yeah.
oh well I'm gonna have a cheat meal. You know, I can't cook tonight because I'm gonna have a cheat meal. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you know what? You might be again, you might be 100% just in whatever the situation is that's allowing you to say that you can't cook or that you can't whatever. But
Yeah.
again, when it comes to like things like 75 hard, when it comes to things like prep, it does not matter if you are going through that. It's either you get it done or you don't. Either you get it done or you don't. And
No
it's
in
that
between.
no in between. That's why, and that's why if you see the people that get up on stage, I think that I mean that's the reason why it's marveled is because you know that these guys took zero
Yeah.
shortcuts. They prioritized everything that they did, and you can always tell the difference between how a pro and a champion and a competitor like there's an amateur, there's a pro, there's a winner, and there's a champion. And if you ever
Yeah.
follow those people's journeys, you can see literally the difference in all of the different trainings and mindsets. And then
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, you know, what I see a lot of is you see everything, and then you'll see the genetics. This
Yeah.
guy just has better genetics at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in your experience, Coach, what what are some of the things like because I would say that prep isn't for everyone, right? I would definitely
Right.
say prep isn't, you know, whatever. I as much as I do boast that I think people should as an overhaul at one point or another. um who are some of the athletes that you think are ready to do prep that won't be negatively affected from like the long-term effects that prep can have?
You know, someone like Mike, who's from Nigeria, who had a hard upbringing, who appreciates the little things in life. You know, like, you know, look at the athletes that succeed. You know, some of them are from terrible backgrounds and they built that mental toughness as a kid. I used to do a lot of grappling, and wrestlers are phenomenal. I mean, you're talking about wrestling and fighting someone, and you know, someone's trying to submit you for 2 or 3 hours straight, and you have to be able to mentally explode. You have to mentally be able to be okay with someone trying to break a limb sometimes. You know, it's in a controlled environment, but man, athletes that come and have had success in athletics, they always are the most elite because again, that mindset's already there. They can turn it on and it's on. You know, like I said, that one client of mine, we're going to that dark place. He turned it on. You know, then you get someone who's like Mike. He doesn't really have a dark place. He's always smiling, always laughing. But, you know, he appreciates just being able to do this. You know, someone from Nigeria who came over, you know, and the little things in life he really enjoys. But at the end of the day, the athlete is the common denominator in both. So, like, you know, parents, if you can put your kids in a sport, do it. You know, learn teamwork, learn fortitude, learn mental toughness. Like those people always succeed, man. It's very rare you get someone who succeeds like, oh, I didn't do anything in high school. I was just, you know, a nerd. You know, it happens. But a lot of these people, they come from athletic backgrounds because they have that mental toughness already.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Pretty much what I heard is you just got to have that dog in you. You got to
You
have
gotta have that dog.
that dog, right? And
Yeah.
I want this to be known here. You see how Chris didn't say anything about like you have to have already these muscles. You already have to have a result. You already have no. You just got to have an inner will to push your body to a limit. You got to push over the situations that you're going to be put in based off of your hormones, based off of
Yep.
restricting yourself from things that you want, you know. And you're right. I feel like sometimes it takes a little bit of character, either characterization, character building, to get over the you're not going to get the result that you want in the immediacy.
Yep.
You know, that you're not going to this situation isn't always going to be as you planned it out to be. That's a lot of, and I feel like by learning that, not only as a just a measure of like your character, but also as just a measure of how that affects your body, how that has an
Yep.
effect on you overall. Those things just play out so significantly in other areas of your life. And I definitely, you know, that's why I love prep. That's why I love everybody that gets to stage has that intrinsic respect for one another, because
Yeah.
it's like, man, you got here. Yeah. You might not have the result that is as good as this, or you might not be whatever, but that's why everybody, when they're backstage, they're all, you know, for me, at least my experience, at least up until now, it's always
Mm-hmm.
been love, always been like
Oh yeah.
hyping everybody up. I'm not, you know, if someone gets a placement above me, I don't take it personally as anything else. Like, it just, I have a lot of respect for them. Now, I might look at say, hey, Judge, I don't think you did the right thing right there. Right. But
Yeah.
that's doesn't, I don't want that to ever take away from an athlete, because I have the most tremendous respect for them to get up on stage, because I know what it
Yeah.
takes to definitely get there. Um, all right. So, and then let me add this too, just because let's say you do sign up in prep. Let's say you hear this podcast, you want to get into prep and you don't get through, right? At the very least, you figure out, hey, you can get through a certain instance, or at least you can prep for a certain amount of time, or at least you got
Yeah.
to be shown what it's like if you hold yourself 100% accountable in some dynamic, you know? Um, but at the very least, I would encourage everybody to, at least, like I said, get to a point where you go through it all at one point, at one more another, getting up on stage, especially in a day and age where it feels like everybody has some type of body dysmorphia issue. Everyone has some kind of issue with
Yeah.
personal investment and personal confidence. As well as, you know, for me, I gotta definitely tell you, like, one of the biggest life-changing moments I had is back to the dark mode. I love this. Sorry. But one of the biggest life-changing moments I had was the first time I stepped up on stage, and, you know, I was in the worst shape that I've ever been up on stage, but it was the first time in my life that, like,
Mm-hmm.
I took my shirt off in a stage of people that was judging me, and I didn't care about the
Yeah.
placement, or I didn't care about their judgment, because it was more the fact that I finally thought I was good enough to display something like that of myself. And, you know, years of having, you know, fears of taking my shirt off in public pools, of what experience when I was in daycare, day
Mm-hmm.
camp, when I was in elementary, or even being in football, being one of the chunkier kids and not being all like the rip guys that had the genetics that we kind of spoke
Yeah.
about. So to kind of, you know, wear those things on my shoulder and have them all brushed off in that moment is definitely one of the most life-changing things for me. And I definitely hope that everyone gets to experience like that. Like, obviously you don't have to get bullied in a pool, you don't have to get whatever, but to get over that moment. You know what, Chris, I was going to ask you, when you spoke
Yeah.
about it, was there any low moments you had when you were 21, just had your kid? Was there any like moments where you're like, wow, I need to do something about this? Like, can you talk
Yeah.
about that?
There was a picture. It was of me and my boxer at the time, my dog. Her name was Roxy, and I think it was my kid's like first birthday or something like that. And I was like, that's me. You know, like I've always had so much fucking confidence. Like, one reason why I love that Dion's doing what he's doing, you know, shout out to Primetime, because that's where I
Mm.
got a lot of my swagger from, a lot of my confidence. You know, watching him growing up and my dad watching them and things like that, and just watching when he was with the Cowboys and Atlanta, and he just had that swagger about him. And I've always had that confidence in myself. My mom was just, "You're so handsome, you can do anything," you know, like, you know, your boy is confident, and that's the first time I didn't have that confidence in myself. I was like, I don't like this. You know, like
Mm.
I felt like shit. I wasn't, well, of course I wasn't training. I wasn't eating well. And that wasn't me. And even my wife today, she's like, that's the most confident man I've ever seen, and when I didn't have that about myself, I recognized it immediately. But again, it took a picture to do it. But at the same time, no one told me I was out of shape. No one told me, hey man, you should start working out. Like I'm like, man, we're all my friends then. Like now I have a best friend. Man, dude, you looking fat as shit. You need get your diet together.
Yeah.
He'll tell me, but he's a real one. And I'm here at my gym. Another good friend of mine, I'm about to work out with him when we get off of here, and he's like, "Hey man, like I noticed you've been in kind of a funk lately. Meet me at the gym. I'll see you there." But it's like people like that. They help me now, but then again, it was just me seeing a picture, and I didn't like how I looked, and that wasn't the confidence in myself that I've always had. So I needed to make a change, and after that, it's been something I keep in the back of my mind. Of course, body dysmorphia, like you said, everybody has some sort of body dysmorphia, especially when you go on stage,
No,
see how good everyone praises you. Then you get off stage, add 20, 30 pounds. You're like, you still look good, but, like we still look better than 90% of the population. But we're not worried about them. We're worried about ourselves and our look. So that was kind of the point for me. I didn't have that dog in me at that time. So after that, now I got that dog in me, so, you kind of you got to have that confidence. And again, I didn't have it at that time and I wanted it back.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I think that's like the biggest thing that I've learned about like getting on prep and getting up on stage is the fact that like you realize it was never about your objective results, but rather your inner thoughts about yourself objectively, and
Yeah.
how you think about yourself definitely plays into your overall
Oh
persona,
yeah.
your charisma, like, it's interesting because if I were to look at my physique over the years, it's definitely ballooned in and out, but I remember like there are times when I was leaner, definitely not like stage ready, but leaner when I was younger, but that being attributed to like a better time in my life just because I thought about myself a lot better. And it really
Mm-hmm.
took until the point where I get up on stage where, just like kind of what you said, 20 to 30 pounds later, you're not going to look the same. But that's kind of where you realize that you're not really the objective result. It's rather,
Yeah.
do you feel like you have control? Are you happy with where you're at? Or if you're not happy, are you doing habits that are contributing to your unhappiness? And are you taking accountability and responsibility for them? These are the
Yeah.
things that you start learning intrinsically. And you find out in the process that it's just, you're always going to like, you're going to always have some kind of discomfort with your body, but I have learned to accept it and be happy with that little level of discomfort because I have control of when I get to adjust it or not.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah. So, all right, real quick. I know we're kind of cutting it close on time, but this is the beginning of the prep. Like, so what are certain things that you look over with a client when you first get to prep with the person?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I kind of get to know their background. Like how long have you been training? Past dieting experience. What are you eating now? What does your diet look like? How much do you weigh? How much have you had any weight fluctuations in the past 4 or 5 months? Have they ever had a hormone panel done? If not, I always recommend they get one, but it's not a necessity. And
Mm,
it's like this biofeedback stuff. I mean, how are they sleeping? Are they always sore? If you're always sore, something's wrong. Um, how their libido is. Are they on birth control for women? If they're not on birth control, do they have a normal cycle? If
mm,
not, we got to figure that out. For males, we talk about testosterone. How's your libido? Do you have a morning wood? How's your strength in the gym? What kind of training program are you doing now? All those things that kind of take into consideration to how I build the program from there, and then kind of try to create an outlook. Because we can do all the math we want and try
mm.
to say, this should happen, but you always got to make sure that you have a backup just in case. Because 9 times out of 10, we see the desired result, but sometimes it just doesn't. So then we go back and say, okay, is there any questions maybe I missed? Or were they honest about this question? Were they not honest?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, I can kind of I can't say diagnose, but I can kind of see what went wrong, and they kind of go from there. But it's very very similar for most people. I just kind of go into more biofeedback too, because again, that's what's going to help me make the decision on how many training days we have. Also look at their physique. What needs to be brought up. Where do we need to put maintenance volume? Where do we need to put volume to grow? So just a lot in a nutshell, I guess.
Yeah. So I would say like the beginning is kind of you figuring out your client. Like what are the things that you're doing? How is that attributing to
Right.
where you're at and what are the habits and behaviors? It sounds like that's what you do a lot of. Like you, right.
Exactly.
Because you can't just be like, oh, hey, here's a plan, bam, and do patchwork. Like, no, that doesn't really
I mean, there's
work.
coaches out there that will do that, but that's not what I do.
Yeah. And in my experience of coaches that are successful, because I've had 3 prep coaches, but I've also worked with trainers and people that do fitness things.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely imperative to make sure that you're having someone work with you instead of you trying to work for them. And it makes
Yeah.
a huge difference in how you respond naturally. It literally, because everybody's all motivated and inspired, right? Week 1, month
At
1,
first, yeah.
right at
Yeah.
first. But let's say you get into what I just said, which is you feel like you're working for your coach instead of him working with you and for you.
Yeah.
You'd start developing a little bit of resentment. By month 2, month 3, that resentment grows. And month 4, you're like, fuck this guy because he keeps on
Yeah.
telling me, but I don't want it. Like, yeah, then you can't be doing that. So it sounds like you're definitely so in the first month, obviously we're going to talk over the course of the month, but to kind of give the listeners a really big feedback, we're going to definitely talk about the sleep, the eating habits.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a hormone panel? Is that do you just buy that online? Do you have a link that you send?
Yeah. Yeah. So I've been using Nutrition Dynamic lately, and
Okay.
it pretty much looks at most hormones I need to look at. Males and females is going to differ a little bit. Um, but yeah, you buy that online, and then you go to a lab corp. For women, there's a certain day I want you to go. For men, any day really. And I'll be able to look at testosterone, DHEA, your cortisol, all your thyroids, liver enzymes, basically everything I need to look at to kind of make sure that it's going to be a smooth sail.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I've never gotten everything like that tested. I've got a couple of things, but
Yeah.
definitely not to the point where I could just speak it nonchalantly, like what you just said. That's wow. That's
Most
really
people, I tell them when the results come in, just email them to me. Don't be Googling shit because Lord knows you go to WebMD, this low, this low, this low, and next thing you know, oh, you have 6 months to live, and they're like, they freak the fuck out, and I'm like, do not. And the coach, I researched it. I'm not sure if I have cancer. I'm like, you did exactly what I told you not to do, and it happens more often than not. But
oh my god. So you're
it'll be fine.
I just checked this and I'm gonna die. Fuck prep, prepping
Exactly.
to die right now. Is that what we're doing?
You know what? Fuck it. We're gonna make sure you're shredded when you get in your box.
Oh my god. Okay, so I'm sorry that just I've seen so many of those, and I only laugh because I do the same fucking shit. Like on something
Yeah.
like I recently like strained my elbow, but of course I attributed that to cancer, and I now have cancer in my
Right.
lower back, and I'm dying tomorrow. So you
Yeah.
know what I mean. So YOLO until then.
Right.
But you're right. It's like there's too much information on the internet. And I honestly,
Exactly.
you know what? I got to be honest. This is going to be kind of an off tangent, but I feel like that's one of the bigger contributors of why people aren't at where they're at with their goals and trying to, now create
Yeah.
things like fat phobia per se because of the, too much information, too many excuses per se, too many different like,
Yep.
kind of get over that.
I have this, so I shouldn't train hard. Just shut up and train. For most people,
Again, 75 hard, man. You get it done or you
or you
don't.
don't.
You
Yep.
don't. Um and that's the greatest thing too. And that's another thing I definitely want to add to why I think prep is beautiful is because it gives you a specific end date to be at the best possible version
Yeah.
of yourself. And I think a lot of people, the reason why their goals aren't met is because they don't have very specific, like specified dates to get a specific
Yeah.
time. Like, to say that I'm gonna lose 20 pounds, right? That in of itself doesn't really hold you accountable. It kind of makes it
Yeah.
feel like that you're doing something, but you're
Yeah.
not.
We gotta dive deeper. Like 20 pounds. Okay. What date? What are you gonna change right now to get there? What kind of diet are you gonna do? Like you have to be very specific about those big goals.
Right, right. And for me, this big goal that we're having is that by June, I believe it's 4th or June 1st, it's one of those 2 dates. I'm going to have the best physique possible to potentially earn my pro card as a men's natural physique athlete, as well as beat my boy Adam Ward. We have this bet that's going up until then. It's great. So like kind of what you and I are doing on my regular podcast, me and Adam are going to be bantering and talking shit every Wednesday on the other channel.
I love it.
The show. Oh yeah,
I love it.
It's great. I'm excited. All right, so recap real quickly. I know that there isn't too much about the prep, but I definitely wanted to at least make this episode about why I feel like people should get into prep, Chris's background with him as a coach, and kind of, again, I know a lot of people are probably into this. Oh, what are the reps? What are the sets that we're doing? Over the course of this next month, I'm going to be working with Chris and talk about what are my sleeping habits? What am I eating? How am I working out? If I'm getting morning boners, if I'm, and then work on that hormonal panel. And we'll kind of, I think we're going to go over all of those things specifically next time we talk about this. But I definitely wanted to ease people into this. I definitely want to work into this, and kind of what like me and Chris said, we this is our first time recording and we didn't practice this. I don't want to practice this because I don't want to sound like I'm rehearsed. We will work with how we're going to speak with one another. I guess we're going to, and then also I want everybody that's listened to this, please provide feedback. Please provide this. I want this to be as immersive as possible. Like I'm going to get up on stage no matter what. We're going to be working together regardless.
Yeah.
But I wanted to at least present information so that it's very relatable. And so again, so that people who have been on the fence about it, who want to even just get into better habits, they know what this experience is like. So you know, can see the changes of dieting, see the changes of gaining. Chris, do you have anything to add to that?
No, man, not a lot. You know, I really think it's different. I really enjoy it. Like I said, we've been kind of talking about it back and forth. It's going to be kind of just very organic. You know, we might talk about some conspiracy theories, you know, and
hell yeah,
you know, stuff like that. You know, I'd be like, you know what? You know, some people can't lose fat because there's too much xenoestrogens. But we can talk about that next time. You know, so a bunch of stuff like that. But you know, I'm really excited for it, man. I really am.
What's xenoestrogens?
They're basically estrogens in the environment, like smells, phthalates, and like stuff in your shampoo that the body absorbs, but the body recognizes it as estrogen and it stores in your fat cells. So naturally, your estrogen will rise, which can have negative side effects.
Is that like the BPA kind of stuff in the plastic?
Yep.
The same
exactly.
Effect? Oh, yay, man! There's a lot of theories on that, by the way, that they're trying to. That goes into the feminization of men right now and of our culture.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow, this is going to be interesting. So
it's going to be dope.
Man, aliens, and maybe we could talk about aliens too. I love talking about.
Oh,
aliens.
we will.
What?
And all the lizard people and all that good stuff.
All the lizard people, Wait, there's lizard people. What?
Shh, that's for next time.
Whoa, I'm excited. Anyways, all right, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining Chris. Stay on for a little bit. We're gonna figure out. Oh, and that's another thing too is. A couple of free t-shirts for anyone that could think of a great name for this segment. I don't know. You know, I don't, Road to the Show was already taken. Road to the Florida Pro was kind of already taken. Prep. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Anyways. All right, guys. Well, and until next time, guys, thank you guys for joining us. And until next time, deuce. Woo, that was good, man. How do you feel?